Hello all and welcome back to my channel. I am Paige. It has been quite a bit since I have made a new video, but this week our craft is kind of a throwback to a very early craft we did. One of my earliest videos was actually making some coasters using fortunes from fortune cookies. And I actually made this one kind of behind the scenes, but it is a coaster full of different fortunes. But as you can also see, it's full of air bubbles. Because this is one of my first projects, especially one of my first projects with resin, it could have gone better. So we are going to attempt to remake this coaster using the knowledge that I have accumulated over the last few years to improve it. So if you're interested in this coaster redo, please continue watching. The big issue that I have, one, is that a lot of the fortunes got soggy, and two is clearly all of the air bubbles and leaked resin that happened to go in this. I don't think I made this with cured resin. I think I pressed very gently the fortunes down in some wet resin and then did a layer on top. I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that we have successfully put pictures in Christmas ornaments and then covered them with resin. So we're gonna be using similar techniques and hopefully we can improve these fortune cookie coasters. Here is our mold, just our nice little square coaster mold. But prior to doing any resin, I actually like to plan out my design first in the empty mold. So I have loads of fortunes from fortune cookies. For some reason, it's just a thing that I like to collect. The ones that I'm going to be using for this design are the ones that are plain black on the front and have this red number on the back. Of course, that's not very in focus, but I'm going to be laying them out, kind of getting a nice design of how I want things, possibly trimming them down, making it look like the whole thing is full of fortunes. And here is our current design. I like having just the red numbers there in the center, and then all the other fortunes are kind of spaced around, sort of like bricks. There's really no rhyme or reason. I like spacing them in a variety of ways, but the red numbers are right in the center. I think that's gonna turn out super cool. I'm going to remove all these fortunes. I'm also gonna lay something heavy on top just to get them nice and flat prior to putting them into the actual coaster. But once we have those all removed, I'm going to add just a very thin layer of resin. And if you can see in our coaster mold, the edges are dipped just a little bit farther down than the flat base. So we're gonna fill the edges up and then just leave a very, very thin, not too terribly thin, but we're gonna have a thin layer of resin in the middle so we have something to glue all of our fortunes onto when it is time to put them in our coaster. It's been 24 hours and our little bit of resin has cured. And now comes the longest part because it is layers of Mod Podge. So first, what I'm gonna do is put some Mod Podge down on the coaster and then put my fortunes face down into it. I find that if I put a layer down first and get all of the fortunes nice and glued down flat, then we can go on the back side and start sealing it. But first, as I said, we are just gonna do a thin layer in this square and transfer the fortunes into the coaster. Our first layer of glue has dried, and so you can see the dry back of all of these fortunes. And I'm just gonna be taking more of this Mod Podge and doing several layers over top of the back, just like we did for our Christmas ornaments when we sealed pictures in the resin. I'm just gonna do 2, maybe 3 thin coats of the glue to seal it in all nicely, so it's gonna protect our fortunes and not affect them when we pour our second layer of resin. I ended up putting 3 layers of glue on this piece. You can kind of see in the light the brush strokes, but don't worry, this is the back and it's going to be covered by resin. So this is all sealed up nice and beautiful, and really all that's left to do is do our second layer of resin. We're going to fill up the rest of the coaster, probably throw in some alcohol ink, I don't know. I also like coloring the edges of some of them with the oil-based gold paint pen that I have. I'm not sure, but now this is the fun part where you can just kind of get creative and do whatever you want to on the back side. Are you guys ready for the big reveal? Our coaster is fully cured, and I sanded it down a little bit before I presented it to you guys, but this is so cool. Here are our fortunes. See, no leakage, no bubbles, and you can just a little bit in the light see the glare of the glue. But if I have to choose between a small amount of glue glare and a lot of air bubbles, I'm gonna take this. And even though we did a pattern on the entire back, you can't see all of it, but you can see it a touch along the border. And I really enjoyed it so much that I actually made a second coaster. Doesn't have the exact same design, but how cool! These totally work, and this one I actually colored the edges for. I am just a big fan of collecting fortunes, and so having something like a craft to use them for and have it turn out like this is so cool. It's exactly how I imagined it. So here are some up-close shots of our coaster outside in the natural light. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope you guys all enjoyed this week's craft, and if you did, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I post crafting videos most Fridays. I also have links for all of my social media accounts in the description box below. I'll see you guys all for the next one.